Hey! Guess who's on the road? Me and Big Tones. And guess who's not? Charlie Chuckwagon Davies. What's up, everybody? Hit like and subscribe, and let's get after it. Hi, hello, and welcome to your favorite Average to Good podcast. Call it what you want. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Tony Miola and Charlie Davies. And Charlie is back from vacation. Chuck, great to see you. Looks like you've been outside. That's what I'm going to say.
Oh, yeah. So you're going to take the polite way of saying, you got doc. Yeah, I enjoyed the sun. I really did. And I was able to just disconnect and relax and spend time with the family. And now I'm ready to go. So let's get to talking. Yeah.
We're going to get to talking for sure. Big Tones, you're currently in Miami around MLS Media Day. Give us a little taste. What's been happening down in South Florida?
Yeah, I was able to pull off a little over 30 interviews today. I'm exhausted. So if anything happened today in a game that I that I don't know about, I apologize because I was just a little bit busy. I'm just excited. Charlie used the word disconnected. He was disconnected. We couldn't find him anywhere for the last 2 weeks. It's been just a fun day. Got to interview a lot of guys.
Yeah, 30 interviews. I don't even know how you prepare for something like that, but
I didn't, Jimmy. I just wing every interview.
Just winging it. Well, you're Tony Miola. He can do what he wants. He does what he wants. He does what he wants. He's Big Tones, and he does what he wants. All right, I'm in Chicago for the coaches convention. I'm here with Quick Goal and having a kick-ass time. Really looking forward to hopefully rubbing shoulders with some of you that are big fans of the show. I'll be here for a couple days. But before we get into anything and get into the show, I just want to give a shout-out to the people that are in LA, some of our people that we know and love, friends and family, any of our listeners that are there. We're hopeful that you are safe and your loved ones are safe as well. I'm from the Pasadena area. Thankfully, my family is safe, but I definitely wanted to take a moment to demonstrate our concern for what's happening in LA, a very special place to me in particular. Went to college there as well. So, yeah, this episode's for you. We're going to have some fun for you. Hopefully, this will be breaking up your day. If you're suffering in any way, you're just gonna have a little bit of fun. We'll talk about the U.S. men's national team and our player pool. We're gonna start though with the Bundesliga. It's coming back in action, and we have quite a few players that play in the Bundesliga. And Chuck, I'm gonna come to you first on this because my question is, where do you rank the Bundesliga in terms of leagues overall worldwide? It's a big conversation. Premier League seems like it's the out-and-out favorite, but they have a huge financial advantage. So fair play to them, best marketed league in the world. But then the next three, you got Bundesliga, you got La Liga, you got Serie A, of course. Like
it's fourth. It's fourth.
It's fourth. Easy answer for you. It's fourth.
Yeah, because I still rate La Liga and Serie A above Bundesliga. The Bundesliga is super competitive, but I think when you're throwing in Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, Barcelona, that heavily weighs kind of the difficulty in that league. Even though the bottom, let's say the bottom six are relatively weak in La Liga, that top half is so strong that you have to give La Liga 2 or 3. And in Serie A, I think they proved already that it's a powerhouse league. So, yeah, I'd give it fourth, and then Liga fifth.
Okay, Big Tones, you in similar mindset?
Yeah, similar. The only one, I still don't know that we give the Portuguese league enough love, right? When you talk about the top 5 leagues in the world, because you still have 3 massive clubs with Benfica, Porto, and Sporting. So from that respect, I don't know that it's better than the Bundesliga, but I don't know that it's worse than the Bundesliga from top to bottom. I had an interesting conversation you mentioned today. The most interesting part was our last interview with Marcel Hartl, who came from St. Pauli to St. Louis. Right. And we always ask these foreigners about the level of the league. His answer was, I know the level of the Bundesliga too. It's not as good as Major League Soccer. It's his exact words. He said, and there are MLS teams that will compete in the middle of the Bundesliga all day. He mentioned Columbus. He mentioned LA FC.
How much are you getting paid, Tony?
When you hear the interview,
there's no way in hell you can say MLS.
It's apples and oranges. We have a salary cap. They don't. Like it's different.
Listen, I'm telling you his answer. And this is a guy who could care less about getting paid by anybody. When you hear the answer, you can tell that the guy is genuine about what he said. He did mention, obviously, you got Leipzig, you've got Bayern Munich, and you got some teams at the top of the table. But he was like, "There's no way anybody can tell me that it's not as good." And we asked him, "What's the biggest surprise?" So this is his end. Look, you can shake your head all you want. You're not convincing. That's one guy you're not going to convince.
Who's living it? Who has lived it?
Yeah, I know.
He lived it. Right?
Do you agree with that though? I know that.
I think there's some teams for sure.
I agree.
I'd put Columbus Crew in there if they had obviously the budgets that the Bundesliga teams have and how well coached they are. And they have a
he's talking about
identity.
it right now, Jimmy.
He's talking about it right now. He's not talking about budgets.
Okay.
Yeah, he's talking about budgets. He said the LA Galaxy would compete right in the middle of the Bundesliga. Those are his words. They're not mine. I'm just telling you. You asked me that was one of the most interesting conversations. Yeah.
No, and I respect it. I think with the emergence of Bayer Leverkusen, I would say that Serie A for me is probably number 2, just in terms of how competitive that top 6 to 7 are. When you have the emergence of Atalanta winning the Europa League, and then Milan coming back into it, somewhat coming back into resurgence, and Juventus and Inter. I mean, and you got Roma at times can be competitive, but I think they're probably number 2 for me. La Liga's right there, though. I mean, that's like a toss-up because Spanish teams always do well in Europe in particular, right? But then, yes, there's the drop-off, but how big is that drop-off to your point, Chuck? And then the Bundesliga, that just feels like it's Bayern Munich. So it was very cool to see Bayer Leverkusen have a ton of success. Dortmund had a chance, obviously, to win the league a couple seasons ago and blew it on the last day of the season to Mainz. And then Leipzig, just so hot and cold, some of those teams. But, yeah, that's an interesting comment. Anyway, I bring this up, and I wanted to have this part of the conversation because we have quite a few guys that are earning their wage in Germany, and I wanted to give some midseason grades to these particular players, and I'll name them here in a second, and then give some predictions for how we think their 2025 is going to go. We're going to start with Joe Scally. Now, Joe Scally, 15 starts for Borussia Mönchengladbach in their 15 games. They're currently in 8th place overall, and he's got no goals and no assists. He plays on the right side, the right back and a back 4. I found that to be pretty surprising in some ways because I thought there was a little bit more of an ask from Mönchengladbach for him to get forward. But now that how we see he's being playing for Pochettino, maybe just sitting at home is the job for him. But I'm hopeful the guy can get a goal and assist. So that's my hope and dream for him in 2025. Can he get a goal contribution? Scallywag. That's what I'm going to go with there. What's funny is that Joe Scally is only 22 years old. So I'd say being trusted as a first choice player for Mönchengladbach, his 4th year with the club. I'll give him a nice solid B. Joe Scally's my grade. Chuck, I'm coming to you. What do you say in grade-wise? Any predictions for Scallywag? That's my new nickname for him.
Well, Mönchengladbach is also doing well in the Bundesliga this year. They're 8th in the table. He's got over 1,250 minutes in the Bundesliga. I think he has developed into a really sound defender. When you're talking about defender, reading the game, good tackles, being strong in the challenges, I think he's grown a lot. And like you said, I'm not surprised at the 0 goals, 0 assists and getting forward because of what we've seen from him. That's not his strength, and that's fine. Play to your strength. And Pochettino doesn't mind him being a right back that can tuck in because he's sound defender. So I think from that standpoint, consistency this year, I think he's improved defensively. I think he's also improved in the attacking phase of the game, even though we're not seeing Serginho Dest. I think he has improved. I think a B is about right. Yeah, above average, not stellar, but above average.
Okay. Any predictions for Scally before we move on, or to let Big Tones chime in on the 22-year-old right back for Mönchengladbach?
Predictions in terms of,
like, what do you think? Do you think he's going to blow up for the U.S. team? Do you think he's going to help Mönchengladbach get into Europe? They're only 3 points off the top 4. What are you saying? Any big?
I think he's going to continue
for 2025
to be a role player.
All right,
a player you can count on. I don't expect him to not be in the squad, but if you're trying to get me to say he's going to move the needle and he's going to be with Dortmund or Bayern next year, like, no, that's not happening.
Charlie Davies comes back from vacation with no bold predictions for Joe Scally. That's the big news here on Call It What You Want. Big Tones, what do you say for Joe Scally? What's your grade for him? Any predictions? What do you got?
Yeah, no, I gave him a B as well. 15 Bundesliga games. Look, he's a guy that's on the team sheet every week, right? And we We don't expect him to be the guy that's just constantly getting forward and whipping crosses in the box. I think we'd all love to see a little bit more of that. So my prediction would be that he gets better at doing that in 2025, that starts to become part of his game. Now, I don't know how Mönchengladbach plays, week in and week out, and how they ask him to play. I don't think we're going to see it with the national team because, Pochettino doesn't use that right back position like that. We've seen this wrinkle on the right that we've been talking about. I wonder how it changes when Dest comes in, because Dest clearly is not going to do the same job that Joe Scally's doing. So a B, and hopefully the attacking part gets better in 25.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. Fun fact about Joe Scally, 4th youngest player to reach 100 Bundesliga games. So clearly he's being trusted. And we've talked about that a lot, right? When you're a coach, you want to roll out players that you can trust game in and game out. And he's clearly earned that at the club level.
Shout out to Kelly Broderick, who's always in the comments, always stays on. She said he's reliable. That's exactly what he's developed into, a reliable, consistent player. You know what you're going to get out of him. And those players are important too. So I don't want to minimize what he's done with the Bundesliga squad and just what he's been able to do with the national team, because he has made progress.
You need those water carriers on the team as well, right? You need some balance with all the other big time talent that's on any squad. Okay, so Joe Scally, they take on Bayern Munich at home on Saturday. That's going to be a tough test. So welcome back from the winter break, Joe Scally. Now, we're going to go to one of his teammates that was on Borussia Mönchengladbach last season, Jordy Pefok. Now, we haven't talked about him a lot. Here's what's crazy. Jordy Pefok has not played for the U.S. men's national team after missing a sitter in World Cup qualifying at the Azteca. Remember when Gio Reyna tapped that one across? He had the whole – I think it went out for a throw-in. I actually think it's still going out for a throw-in. That's how bad he missed it. 6 yards out. He had either corner, and somehow it's the craziest thing. I had to go back and watch it just to make sure I remembered it correctly, and I did, sadly, for Jordy Pefok. Now, he's with Union Berlin now, and 13 games, 6 starts only, no goals, only 1 assist. I give that a big fat F. It doesn't look very good for the 28-year-old. Resident number 9, Charlie Davies, what are you saying about Jordy Pefok?
Yeah, I mean,
Jordan
F
Pefok, sorry.
F is a little...
Okay,
a little
fine.
harsh. A D.
He's starting for a Bundesliga team. That's fair. That's fair.
At least he's playing. So is he performing well? No, but at least he's getting the opportunity where some of our guys aren't even getting the opportunity, right? So
that's fair. That's fair.
619 minutes, 6 starts, 7 subs, and 1 assist to show for it. So yeah, it's a D.
I mean, last year when he was on loan to Mönchengladbach, 7 goals in 27 appearances in all competitions. So he clearly was giving some type of production. Again, we don't know what's being asked, but if you're playing up and around a goal, you should be getting some goals, Big Tones. Are you in the same category as us as a D? Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really know how to grade him with 13 Bundesliga games and 1 assist in 47 minutes. Like, I mean, is there a no grade? Is there?
Yeah, maybe it's like a no rating. You can give him a no rating.
Yeah, there's a no rating, I guess, right? Yeah, I feel
he's got 619 minutes, Tony.
Total 1,613 games. So yeah, it's 47 minutes per game right now, and he's got 1 assist. And he plays as a center forward. We always talk about judging center forwards on scoring goals, right? So I feel for the guy, because I felt like there was a time, and I don't know how you guys felt, like we were going to see more of him. He had a different profile than some players, and I don't know. I guess it coincides with the miss, but I thought we would see more of him, and it just hasn't gotten to that point. So hopefully he finds better form here in 2025. I guess if I'm going to make a prediction, Jimmy, for 2025, Jordan Pefok will have more than 1 assist in 2025.
I love
more goals and more than 1 assist.
That seems like a nice short-term realistic goal, and we're going to go with that, Big Tones. All right, we'll keep it moving. Gio Reyna, 6 appearances in the Bundesliga this season. 1 start, 1 goal. I was a little disappointed that he got that goal and started against Hoffenheim. The next game, he only gets 3 minutes off the bench. That he wouldn't have been used again. It looks like he's not being used necessarily out in the wings. It's really him or Julian Brandt, in the 10 spot, which I don't mind Gio Reyna being there. It's just disappointing that maybe he's not being seen in other positions that could give him more time on the field. But when you have Gittins scoring a bunch of goals, he's also competing with Daniel Mullen, and when Adeyemi is healthy, just there's a lot of competition, including Cole Campbell, who we'll talk in a sec, that he hasn't got that many minutes, but obviously as a future prospect. Obviously want him to stay healthy and just continue to fight for minutes. That looks like it will continue to happen. But my big prediction, Chuck, we maybe talked about this when you were gone, is that for Gio Reyna, I hope that he can make a move in the summer where he can be valued and take and be really the focal point of the attack, because right now he just seems to be someone that can pop in when somebody else is hurt, which is never a good vibe. However, very similar to Joe Scally and a lot of the players we're going to talk about today, still really, really young. So obviously lots of room to grow. I don't even know how to grade this one. Tones, I'll go to you first as a fellow no rating here, NR. It's tough because he's just been hurt for so long, and now he's just trying to scrape back into the first team and trying to make the most of that. I don't really know how to evaluate that because he's just been injured for a while. Oh, Big Tones is muted, baby.
Sorry, he's the one guy. Thanks, Jimmy. I just want to see him play. I want to see him grow as a player. I want to see him have a run of a year where everything goes his way physically, and then we can see where he is. You know, I think it's hard to argue that we've seen so many like signs of Gio that like give you hope. You know, that, man, we got something special on our hands, and then an injury. And I know that the kid doesn't want to be injured. No one wants to be injured. I just wish we would get a run from him. And I know we're all hoping for the same thing, right? No one wants to see the guy hurt. And if in the end he's good enough, he's good enough. And if he's not, he's not, but not because of the injuries. And that's kind of been what his career has been. He's still young. I get it. There's so much on his shoulders. He's been through so much. But it's hard after 6 Bundesliga games, 1 goal, which happened to be a really good goal, by the way, 102 minutes in Champions League. I mean, I hate, it's an NR for me. It's a no rating. I mean, I don't know how else to grade it. I mean, you could, I suppose you can go in the time that he had 6 Bundesliga games and 1 great goal. You could go, okay, it's a C. He proved something, but this is another one that I just didn't know how to rate.
Yeah, same. Chuck, where are you on this?
I think you have to take into consideration not just this season, but the past 2 seasons, 3 seasons with Dortmund. And so he's made some moves when you think of Nottingham Forest and it not working out, that I think we all knew that Dortmund wasn't the right place for him right now. He needs to go somewhere else. And you're not going to make that move in January unless you're going to a league that starts fresh in January, February, March, like an MLS. And he's not coming back to MLS. So he has to buy his time. And I think from now till the summer, it's all about just building your fitness back, getting your strength back, obviously contributing when you can, but staying fit, because in the summer, this is the biggest move of his life. Getting the right club, making sure that choice is so essential to a successful 2026 World Cup campaign. And we need him fit. We need him healthy. We know how talented he is, and we don't have a like for like. That's one player you can look at and go, there is no like for like within the U.S. men's national team pool. So I would give it a D. And I know injuries play a part of that because you can't really control in some cases injuries, but ultimately this is below average where he is right now. And I know Dortmund's a great club, and I know they're competing in the Champions League and in the Bundesliga, but it's not a surprise that it's not working out at Dortmund.
Yeah. What's interesting is that his agent is also the same agent of Sergio Conceição, who is the new manager of AC Milan. We'll see if those dots get connected, Chuck. That was one of my big predictions on an earlier show when you were gone. Well, keeping it at Dortmund, let's talk Cole Campbell, the 18-year-old. He has gotten a few minutes with the first team. I actually, in some ways, and this might feel weird or sound weird, I kind of want to give him an A. 18 years old, obviously breaking through and being a significant member of the Borussia Dortmund second team to warrant consideration to get some minutes with the first team, I think is a really big deal for a young player, especially for a team that's going out to buy a lot of young players as well, not only developing them, but going to find them elsewhere. So I like that. Now, can he maintain that A? That's going to be the big challenge, obviously, heading into 2025. My prediction for him is that he'll get settled in This will be a good learning experience the back half of the season. And then in the fall, he'll be one of the hopefully first choice. That means that probably a couple of other younger players will have after been sold. Gittins maybe will move in the summer. Daniel Mullen already looks like he's being talked about maybe moving in the January transfer window. So there could be some space for him to emerge and for them to trust him in a meaningful way. So I like that he's there. I like his confidence, of course. We've seen some of the comments that come from him. But again, it's about maintaining that consistency so they can continue to get those valuable minutes. Right now, he's got 19 minutes, I think, in 3 appearances in the Bundesliga for Dortmund. But I think I've been really impressed with how he's worked his way to get into that spot. All right, I'm going to take that one. I'm going to throw it over to you, Big Tones. Let's get into Leonard Maloney. He played for Heidenheim. He's got 9 starts, 10 games overall. In his 9 or 10 starts, they've only won 2 of those games. And so that's not the best of looks, but he's getting a lot of valuable experience, only 25 years old, in an area that I think if a couple players are hurt in the CDM spot, maybe you put him back into the conversation.
Yeah, he's currently got a head injury. He does have the 10 games in the Bundesliga. He's got a couple conference games of 2 Pokal games. I'm going to give it a C, Jimmy. It seems like when he's fit, he's a starter in the Bundesliga, right? And plays right in the middle of the field. There have been some rumors of other teams coming in for him. But I'm going to give it a C for Leonard Maloney, and a C only because he wasn't able to make his first 2 caps with the national team stick. Right. He hasn't gotten to that level yet, and I think some of us thought that he might get to that level. I know there's been some people kind of yelling about can he play as a center back. I don't know. I don't see enough of him to know if he can play as a center back. So for all those things, I'm going to go Leonard Maloney a C to a C plus for Maloney.
Yeah, there's something about his game that I like. He's got some grit. He's got some presence. He makes tackles. He makes plays. He looks like he's got good leadership ability. Those are all things that I value, but obviously you got to get out there and try to outperform players that are pretty good ahead of you. All right, last one for you, Chuck. Kevin Paredes hasn't played yet this season in the Bundesliga due to a broken foot, but obviously showed some real signs of promise in the Olympics that he can be a player with some real special talent.
See, this is one you can't rate because he hasn't played at all. He's been injured since the Olympics. So now you could say, you know what? He hasn't even been given the opportunity. He has been injured since the summer. So for that one, you really can't give a grade. In terms of his prospects in the future, I think he still has a lot to offer because he does have that change of pace. He's quick. You can play him in different spots. I don't know if necessarily you could say what his premier position is on the pitch. Is it left back? Is it left wing? He could play inverted winger, but he's definitely someone who's more comfortable on the left side. And it's ultimately, do you want an attacking left back similar to like an Alphonso Davies, who's an attacking player? Yeah, wing back, or a left winger, because he is dangerous in the way they plays, but I don't know if he has the goal scoring ability, that final third magic that is kind of needed at that level.
Yeah, 21 years old. Must be nice. I wish I was in that position at 21 years old. Even coming off an injury, he had 3 goals in 28 appearances last season. So we'll see when he gets back on the field and how he performs. We obviously want him to be as healthy as possible, as soon as possible. All right, we're going to take our first break of Call It What You Want. When we come back, we'll talk about the Eredivisie and PSV. And, of course, get into some more Americans abroad as we look forward to our weekend preview. Do not go anywhere.
The clock never stops. Relive the greatest moments with uninterrupted highlights and more.
It's Gareth Bale! Ronaldo! Wonderful goal!
On the UEFA Champions League channel. Streaming free.
Welcome back to Call It What You Want. I'm Jimmy Conrad. I'm in Chicago for the Coaches Convention with Quick Goal. Miami is the destination for Big Tones for MLS Media Day. We got Chuck. He's at CBS Sports HQ, or you're at headquarters for the Glasso Network, I should probably say. Good to see you back in your old digs after not seeing you for a little while. Let's talk PSV. And Chuck, I'm going to come to you first because they've got some ballers. Malik Tillman in particular has been fantastic. Probably the highest rated player for me, most consistent player for PSV this season. They're taking on AZ Alkmaar to come back into 2025 after their winter break. And Ricardo Pepi, it's his birthday today, so happy birthday to El Train. And what's interesting is when I dug through some of these stats, we'll start with Ricardo Pepi, actually, as our resident number 9. I'm going to throw him, and then we'll talk Malik Tillman. But in 636 minutes in the league in the Eredivisie, Ricardo Pepi has scored 10 goals and had 2 assists. That's less than half the minutes that Tillman has. I know they don't play the same position, so it's a little bit different. But that rate is pretty ridiculous. And even Luke de Jong, 7 goals and 4 assists for him, but he's played 300 more minutes than Ricardo Pepi as well. What are your thoughts on PSV overall and Ricardo Pepi's chances to unseat Luke de Jong? And do you think he'll do it by the end of the season officially?
You know what? I think he will be the starting striker for PSV the following season.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's done enough to make the manager, Peter Bosz, understand how good he is. And when he capitalizes on the minutes that he's given, that Luke de Jong feels the pressure, and Luke de Jong's not getting any younger. That transformation happens within a season where you see a young player given his opportunities start to warrant more minutes versus someone that you've trusted and believed in who has done it for a number of years but is now going the opposite way. And then you have to make that decision of, okay, for the future, we're going to go with Ricardo Pepi. Otherwise, he still gets an A for me because he's put himself in the shop window for the summer. So it's either PSV makes that decision of we got somebody who's understands our system, who's lighting up the league and is ready for that next step, or you know what, we're still going to stick with Luke de Jong and we're going to sell him because he is a valuable asset. So I think, knowing how well he's done and Ernie Stewart, that he's the striker for the future. It just feels like that's the path that they're going to go. And I think Ricardo Pepi will be fortunate that he's in a situation where he's comfortable. He knows the players, he knows the system, he knows the way that his teammates kind of move around him, the tendencies of his teammates. That makes a big difference for him to continue to produce.
Now, Chuck, you weren't here for our big predictions episode, but Big Tones said there's going to be a surprise January move for Ricardo Pepi. Big Tones, you gonna still stay on that, or and if so, where to?
Yeah.
And if not, what have you changed your prediction to?
No. I mean, we were making bold predictions. That's the bold prediction I came up with. But I have seen some word that it looks like they may offer him a new contract. Now, sometimes some of those new contracts they put buyout clauses in there, right? That maybe they didn't have before because the player has gotten to a different level, but. I did say in that same episode, I would love for Ricardo Pepi, like Chuck said, to be the starting forward at PSV to win the job, because I still think that would be the best position for him to be in. Sorry, I got some alarm going off that I don't know about.
Popular Big Tones. You have to.
Yeah. So my prediction was that he would go to a bigger club. I was hoping somewhere in the Bundesliga or somewhere in Serie A. That would have been, I don't know if it's a specific team, but I think if he stays at PSV and they offer him a new contract because they think, as Charlie said, he's becoming that guy now and taking over. I think Luke de Jong's like 34 or 35 now. That would be a great scenario for Ricardo Pepi.
Yeah, it's worth noting, just to put it out there, that the majority of Ricardo Pepi starts do seem to come against the lower bottom half teams in the Eredivisie. That probably needs to be part of the conversation. But it's clear that he's effective when he comes on the field and he's got great energy. And so we'll see if he can continue to parlay that. I mean, he's at 10 goals. Can he get to 20? That would be pretty impressive if he could do that just in the Eredivisie alone. Maybe he can chip in as well in European competition. Okay, 2 other players. I mentioned Malik Tillman. Can he keep it up, Chuck? That's one. The second thing is Richy Ledezma, who has been playing a little bit of a hybrid right back, but he's getting minutes. He actually has more league minutes than Ricardo Pepi does, which I thought was a bit of a surprise when I looked that up. And like, holy crap, like over 100 more minutes than Ricardo Pepi. Obviously, not the same positions. And when you have a right back, you're usually going to keep him in the whole game. Whereas Ricardo Pepi kind of in and out and more of a super sub. Now Ledezma did get named in the team of the month, Eredivisie team of the month in December. And you have Club America that actually, I guess, put a bid in for Richy Ledezma as well. So there's a little bit of action around another American that we maybe don't talk about as much with PSV. So why don't you start with Ledezma and then give me some Tillman talk, Chuck, because I want to know if you think he can keep it up, because he's been on fire this first half of the season.
Well, one, I think on Ledezma, he's a quality player. I mean, he is naturally a midfielder, and he was brought there to be in that midfield and the midfield 3, and he pulled his did his ACL. So it took him some time to get back, and they figured out a spot to play him at the right so he could still come into the midfield, and he gets involved when they have possession. So he it's a little bit of a shock to me that he hasn't been called up to the U.S. men's national team, given it feels like he wants that opportunity, and I think he deserves it given his playing time. But I think this is one that Mexico says, hey, we can get him in our team. We can bring him to Club Americas because he is that quality player on the ball. He can play in tight spaces. He has a good touch, good first touch. I think he's underrated in the way that Americans see him. But he is a good player. So I'm happy with his progress and that he's getting back to full fitness, after putting his injuries behind him. And then for Tillman, I see him continuing to thrive because, the way Ernie Stewart talks about him, I had a conversation with Ernie. He said, you just have to understand how he is and you'll get the most out of him. You just understand him. You build that trust and you allow him to be free, but he can do the most amazing things with the ball at his feet. So there's a reason why he was at Bayern Munich. The kid is gifted, and it's just pulling that out and having him be more of a presence and more consistent. But I do see him continuing to build on what he did so far. So Big Tones, this is always the big question. And you notice this a lot when you're a veteran and you've played for a long time. So for you, obviously, it's with the national team and at the club level. But you have a young prospect or someone that's kind of coming into their own. And the big question, especially from the attacking side of the ball, is now that people figured them out and know how to slow them down, right? And are doing more sophisticated scouting on how to not only limit this player on the ball and their own particular individual influence, but also their impact on the team overall. Like essentially, how is PSV getting Tillman the ball in those pockets of space? Can they minimize that action? So I'm really curious, and I want to get your thoughts on this too. Knowing that I'm sure the other teams in the Eredivisie are now scouting Tillman, and they already knew he was aware of him. He's been playing really well. But when you start to maybe double team him in a different way, can he still have that same impact? I'm very curious to see how he responds to that.
Yeah, look, he's on a team with PSV. When they're playing in the league, they get the ball the whole game. I mean, they're constantly attacking, they're clearly, right? You look at where they are in the standings. So it's a little bit different. We see a little bit less when you get to Champions League, but he gets to Champions League and still scores goals, right? I think if we're looking at, if we were going to grade him, you almost got to give him 2 grades, right? Like you got to give him an A+ with PSV and what he's done, because they're talking at one point in somewhere in the beginning of December, end of November, beginning of December, about him being the best player in the league, right? So I think you look at his grade there, and it's got to be like an A+. And then you look at the national team, and how many times have we said we're just waiting for the club form? Like we're waiting for the club form to become national team form, and then he hasn't been poor. I mean, we go the last camp, he played a little bit deeper. Who'd he come in for? Johnny, right? When Johnny got hurt in that game,
right? In Jamaica.
And yeah, and he actually played well. So you give him a C? Do you average it out? I don't know. But, I mean, I think you almost have to look at him as 2 different grades. Ledezma, I'm interested in him because when I had him in the youth national team was where he was normally playing, and that was in the midfield, kind of as an 8, sometimes as a 6, sometimes as a double pivot, but in the midfield, in the middle of the field. This move to right back has been good for him. It's given him a new lease on life when you talk about being versatile, and given him minutes that he probably wouldn't have had. Where would he fit in with the national team? That would be my question. Like, does he fit? Is he better than Joe Scally? Is he better than, we look at Dest as a right back who's a little bit better. When Dest comes back to his own team, is Ledezma even going to play a minute, right? Like, we got to look at that too, which seems like it's going to happen in January. I'm just interested to see his development and where it goes from there. But you're talking about all of these guys are all still young players, right? They're all just really young. And I'm the first one to say I never give up on young players. Never.
They're still learning their craft, right? I mean,
learning.
Yeah. I mean, what at times what I think even I forget in moments, even though I lived it, is you go from playing in an environment, if you're playing at the youth level, where it's still kind of like your buddies. So you're playing in college, or even if you're playing at a high level youth academy, it's still like your friends. And then you take that step up, and then you're competing against your teammates to put food on the table. Like if you play better, you're most likely going to get and play more. You're going to get better. It's just it's a different dynamic, and I think that takes some time. There's an art to being a good professional, and it takes time to really establish that. And if you're not playing regularly, where does that confidence come from to make sure you can get into the first team and then hold on to that status. There's so many different layers to the mentality of what it means to be a top professional. And when they're younger players, they're still trying to figure that out, even the top guys, right? And I think Christian Pulisic's actually a great recent example, because you can see that he's really evolved and matured into being a top pro, and that consistency and maintaining that consistency. It's been really impressive. I'm proud of him, like a dad over here. All right, let's talk about some other players. Ethan Horvath got his first start since August. Unbelievable scenes, and he was man of the match for Cardiff in their 1-0 win in the FA Cup against Sheffield United. Big result. Sheffield United is one of the favorites in the championship to get re-promoted or to go right back up to the Premier League. We'll see what that means for Sheffield United. That's a separate conversation, but can Ethan Horvath parlay that into getting some starts for Cardiff in the league? That's going to be a big one. Big Tones, actually, before we move on to anybody else, let's go. Resident goalkeeper. This is a big moment for Ethan Horvath, who got a cup start and made the most of it.
Yeah, you nailed it. That's what I was going to say. Made the most of it, right? That's all you can do right now. You're not the man, but you became the man of the match in the one game that you get an opportunity. I didn't see it, obviously, but I did. I did see 7 saves on the day. Sounded like he had a really good match. He gets a shutout. So, again, one of those moments, can you just build on it, right? Can you just get back in the good graces of the manager who clearly – you missed something, during the season. He lost faith in you. Now, can you just start to build all of that? And as a goalkeeper, just like a forward, Charlie, your best game, no matter what, was the game you scored a goal in, right? For a goalkeeper, no matter what, the best game is when you don't give up any goals. Yeah. And then you build from there, right? And he needed some confidence.
You got he definitely needed some confidence.
I don't know what it is. Yeah, I don't know.
Tones is Miami. He did 30 interviews today, everybody. He's going to be in demand.
Everybody wants a dinner with him.
No, it's an alarm that keeps going off. It's not me getting blown up. It's literally an alarm. So I lit something up. But anyway, all right.
So we talked goalkeeper. Let's talk number 9, Josh Sargent, back in training with Norwich. And he was on fire. 4 goals and 5 assists in 12 league games prior to him getting that growing injury, put him out for 8 weeks. He missed 14 league games for Norwich, and it was clear they missed him. They just weren't the same, even though it seems like they're getting a little bit back to where they want to be. And now their coach came out and said it's going to be like a new signing. Welcome Josh into the team. They're playing against Brighton. I wonder how much they're going to risk him in terms of minutes. Do you start him and let him go for 45? Do you bring him off the bench and give him 30? Either way, this is great news for Josh Sargent, resident number 9, Charlie Davies.
It is. I'm happy he got back, and he's had to deal with some injuries over the years, and at the wrong time, right? It's all about timing in our careers. When you're playing well and you're in form, is it a contract year? Our team's watching you, and for him, it feels like, even the World Cup, he starts to play well, and he understands how to have some success at that level, and he gets injured, and he's out. And so, again, I hope Sargent can get back to scoring goals and being fit for the rest of the season. And my hope is that in the summer he makes a move, because he's plateaued with Norwich. And I think for him to get to that next level and playing at the higher level consistently, he's got to play against better competition in bigger matches. And so maybe that means going to Serie A, Bundesliga, Liga, going back to the Bundesliga. He's had success there already. Serie A, Liga, but that to me is the next step for Josh.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious when I think about the Bundesliga, given that he's had success there, where he would go back to. I mean, you want to see him in one of the top 4 or 5 teams, right? I don't know.
Stuttgart.
Yeah, that could be a good shout after they lost Girassi to Dortmund. But yeah, I'm kind of curious about that. Okay, a couple other games that are happening this weekend that we'll be keeping our eyes on. Again, Torino versus Juventus in the Turin derby. Juve going to have to figure out a way to respond after going to Saudi Arabia and losing in the semifinals of the Supercoppa Italiano. And then you have Milan taking on Cagliari, Can they parlay their success in the Supercoppa to getting some good results and getting a nice run under new manager Sergio Conceição in the league? Big Tones, before we get into the break, how are you feeling about Milan now kind of starting 2025 with some real confidence and momentum under a new manager?
Tony Conceição.
Yeah. You're not far off, Charlie, by the way. I think the storyline, Jimmy, obviously we know Pulisic, right? We can table that for a second. I think the storyline is Yunus Musa, right? He comes in as a substitute in the semifinals. He's involved in an important action, plays really well in the semifinals. I get the goal, right? There was a deflection. I get all of that, but still involved in important actions. And then he starts, Conceição says, you're starting in a final in my second day. You're at my second game at the club, right? There's something to that. And can now Yunus Musa build on that? That's the story I'm looking at. We know Pulisic starting, right? If he's 100%, he's still not 100% fit. I told you the other day he was breathing out of his nipples 70 minutes into this game, and he couldn't figure it out. But he figured it out in the end, right? He had his hands on his knees. We never see that from Christian. But I really think Yunus Musa has an opportunity if you think about the way Conceição has said in his press conferences that he wants to play, Yunus Musa fits that. Right, he fits that, and can now he make the most of it.
Yeah, I think just very quickly on Yunus Musa, because I know we have to get to break, but it's just I want him to be really good at whatever he's being asked to do. We all obviously don't know what he's being asked to do or tasked with for club and country, but at times it feels like he's so good at so many things. You know how you can be really good at a lot, but not great at one thing. And I wonder what that would look like if he just was great at one thing and just owned that one space. And I'm sure that's what they're trying to figure out.
Young.
As well. I agree. He's one of many young players that we have. So yeah,
but he has a higher ceiling than most players that we have.
Yes, no question. So I agree with you. Right, we're taking a break. Both of those Serie A games happening on P+. Make sure you go check those out. We got Dortmund, who are going to be taking on Bayer Leverkusen. That's going to be a great game. And as I mentioned prior to that, Mönchengladbach, Joe Scally taking on Bayern Munich. So if you're interested in watching that one to see how CIWYW does, that should be a good game as well.
Get a cough drop at the break from CS.
When we come back, we're talking MLS Media Day. We're talking coaches. CS. We're talking our former co-host, Jesse Marsch. And Costa Rica hired a new manager. Should be a lot of fun to discuss. So stay right here.
Ashbrook for the win.
First, we tried to have a January camp. And the stark reality is just financially, we're not in a position as a federation to support a January camp yet without having the kind of opponents to help support that. So we put a lot of effort in the September, October, November time period to see if we could make it happen. It's a bit of a shame that we weren't able to accomplish that this year, but I'm hopeful that by next year we'll have that in place.
You heard it from our former co-host. January camps matter, everybody. They are a big deal, and they can have a piece, an important piece of the puzzle that any coach is trying to put together. So shout out to our former co-host, Jesse Marsch. Welcome back in to Call It What You Want. I'm Jimmy alongside Charlie and Tony. And Tones, you are in Miami. You had a chance to talk to Jesse Marsch in one of your 3 million interviews today. What was it like to see Jesse?
It was good. He looked happy, refreshed. Clearly, you know Jesse, we all do, right? He loves being around the sport and being around people that are like-minded and having the chance to talk to people. It was a great interview we had with him. Enlightened us on a lot of things with the Canadian national team, how Copa America went, how he loves being the manager there. Nothing other than that. We got on this conversation about the January camp, and they're just not in the position right now to do it, right? So, and I think the other thing was he said it in that interview, was getting the right opponents was important to him. And it's, can you support a 20-day camp and you're going to go play another CONCACAF team again? Like, you're already doing that, right? And your players are already playing at a higher level. But the conversation steered towards asking his players at the club level to do some of the things that they do at the national team at the club level. So I said, well, how do you do that? Because you are not the coach of the club team. The club team, and he said it's sort of the intangibles. Can you win more tackles? Can you run more? Can you make more forward pass? Like things that any manager in the world would say yes to, right? No one's going to say yes to running more. No one's going to say no to it. No one's going to say no to finding more attacking passes in your game instead of playing always the conservative ball, like those types of things. So I thought that was an interesting part of the conversation. Outside of that, he said to make sure we told everybody here hello. So hello,
what a
Jesse
sweetheart.
Marsch. Yeah.
Thank you, Jesse Marsch.
Hello,
Oh,
Jesse.
yeah. By the way, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. He's making Italian oil now at his home in Tuscany.
Of course he
Like
is.
he grows olives, and he's like, you guys got to come to Tuscany and try my – listen, oil for Italians is like so sacred. So I got to get a taste of this, by the way. And I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
I love the free time he has on his hands as a national team manager. That must be nice. Now, some of the news coming out of MLS in general, and going back to our resident number 9, Charlie Davies. Jesus Ferreira leaving FC Dallas to join the Seattle Sounders. Jordan Morris now getting bumped up to DP status. Paul Arriola, another FC Dallas teammate of Jesus's, might be heading to Seattle as well. That makes them pretty formidable if they can all stay healthy, Chuck. What do you think about this move? What do you grade it, all things considered? When you add in De La Vega, who was their big signing last year, if he can stay healthy, I like the balance that they can, a little unpredictable on in their attack, right? Because they can hurt you in so many different ways. What do you grade in this move? Is Chuck there?
I graded a B+.
Okay. Am I frozen or is it Chuck? Charlie's glitching right now.
I think this is a good move for him playing with Jordan Marsch. Am I not there?
There you are.
We
You're
got
back.
you. We got you.
You're back, Chuck. You there? Go ahead. Finish your thoughts on Jesus Ferreira, the Seattle Sounders, and Brian Schmetzer. All right, Chuck is glitching out, Big Tone. So we're going to have to, Chuck, hang up and come back. Big Tone, so you got a chance to talk to Brian Schmetzer today of the Sounders. Did you guys talk about this move at all or the future
Absolutely.
of the club? Yeah, what did he say?
First question we asked Schmetz, because my thought was, my thought was that Jesus Ferreira would play up top and that would move Jordan Morris out to the left-hand side where he's a little bit more comfortable. And he said, well, if you ask Jordan Morris that, he's not going to like that idea because Jordan Morris likes playing as the number 9. And he told us that they're really looking at a way to play 2 forwards. And Brian Schmetzer has been a 4-2-3-1 guy since he came into the league. So it's something to look out for. He did mention that Ferreira likes to drop into the midfield a little bit, so maybe these 2 guys can find a rotation where they could have some cover and balance. So that was one of the storylines that came out of the conversation with Schmetz, which was a great conversation, as it always is with him. That's a big move, I think. And if they can solidify this Paul Arriola, which we're hearing around here is going to be announced here really soon, that's another big move for him. Another guy that fits into what Brian Schmetzer's trying to do. If it flattens out into 4 in the midfield, then it moves Christian Roldan probably to the middle with Paul Arriola out on the right. Now they've got some real options there. Remember, they got a big tournament coming up, and they've got 2 of them. They got CONCACAF Champions Cup,
That's right,
the league, and then they've got the Club World Cup. And we asked him about that, and he said it's kind of hard to keep his keep his players from not thinking about playing. I think it's Botafogo, it's PSG, and it's Atletico Madrid, right? And I don't know that it's in that order. He goes, but I got a lot of things to do. Like I think they're in Honduras for CONCACAF Champions Cup first, and then they get into the league and the first home match. And he said, I got a lot of things to do, but it's hard for them not to talk about playing at those levels because everybody does want to play there. So he's got a lot of managing to do. So he's going to need 3 players.
Yeah, there's no question. And Jesus Ferreira did mention that was one of the draws of going to the team, to play in the Club World Cup and to play in all these competitions and to be competing for trophies. And to so yeah, definitely some shade, I think, at FC Dallas, but also exciting times for him. He came off of a tough year last year, but the year before, I mean, he was MLS young player. He's only 24, by the way. It blows my mind. We've been talking about these guys for so long. You just assume they're a little bit older. He's only 24 years old.
That's
he had
crazy.
18 goals and 6 assists in 2022. And another thing, too, that I wanted to bring up, and welcome back, Chuck, is that the general manager for the Sounders, friend of mine, Craig Weibel, has been quoted as saying they want to be a little bit more vertical and have players that can help them get in behind the defense, and they think that Herrera can do that. I know that Jesus Herrera can make those runs, and I actually think Arriola might be a better fit in that sense, because I like when Herrera kind of drops in as a second striker and then can maybe pull the strings.
That's his game.
From those areas.
He's not a striker that just plays off the shoulder and runs in behind all the time.
Right.
He's good at setting you up by checking in, and then once you take the bait, then he gets in behind. He's pretty good at that, and he's an effective striker in MLS.
This is a great. I mean, I like Arriola coming in too. These are good moves from the Sounders. You're getting guys that know the league, obviously, and are experienced. You want something new, a change, getting a fresh start somewhere else, playing in multiple competitions. They get along, get good camaraderie.
So,
yeah. I think this is.
And
I don't know how I feel about
I gave it a B+,
now.
by the way. I gave it a B+.
Gave it a B+.
Yeah.
Jimmy, just keep in mind, one of the things when you talk about signing players this year, and Seattle's been known to sign big name players, right, in big contracts. Jordan Morris became a DP after reaching certain metrics that Brian Schmetzer said today he deserved it, right? He had a contract that if he met certain things, which he apparently did, he becomes a DP. So he takes one of those spots. So it's him, it's De La Vega, and who am I missing? I'm losing my mind, but there's 3 now there, right? So that's an important move, making Jordan Morris a DP, because people would have thought, okay, I'm going to go, Seattle's going to go spend money and, bring some other guy in, but now they got to do it as an under 23 instead of a guy that's over 23.
Yeah. Shout out to JMO. He was healthy last year, 34 games in the league, really impressive, 13 goals, 6 assists, his best ever season in terms of output. So it's nice to see when you kind of earned DP status through these metrics that you're trying to hit. And if the coach is happy and everybody's happy, and sometimes we've been around, we've talked about it. Somebody gets a contract that maybe doesn't feel fair, that can have a negative ripple effect in the locker room. But the guy's been such a rock for that club for so long. It's nice to see him get rewarded for all of his hard work and that he's earned it. He had a great season last year. So I'm very curious to see how Seattle does in multiple competitions this season. All right, let's talk now, though, because there's a big hire in CONCACAF. Costa Rica, the Ticos hire Miguel Herrera, who normally coaches at the club level. His last foray at the club level was with Tijuana, the Zolos Cholos, and he couldn't get them into the Liga MX playoffs in 3 seasons. But his most notable stint internationally is with Mexico from 2013 to 2015. What's interesting about Miguel Herrera is that he helped get Mexico qualified for the 2014 World Cup. Then they get to the round of 16 like they were in that stint of theirs where they always got to the round of 16. They played the Dutch, a little hard done by in that particular game. He ends up winning the Gold Cup in 2015, but then gets fired after that tournament because of an alleged altercation with a journalist. I put up air quotes for people that are listening. What do you think about this, Big Tones? What do you think about this hire, Miguel Herrera going to the Ticos? Because I'm a bit surprised, to be honest.
Well, the alleged thing, didn't we have video of this fight in the Philadelphia airport?
I'm just putting up air quotes. I just want to make sure. It's been reported.
That was allegedly a push and a swipe. Oh, it's on video. Yeah, look, I'm always interested to see what Piojo does, right? I'm always interested to see his fiery personality on the sideline. There was a moment where he was coaching at his last club team when they played LAFC, and he went after Ante Razov at halftime. And I was calling that game, and I'm literally going to myself, yeah, that's not the guy you want to go after. Like, pick somebody else, because Ante is going to bring a little bit of smoke. He's fiery, like he's got energy. He's entertaining. I don't know that his coaching. I got to look at his coaching, record. I didn't do that today. I don't know what it looks like overall, but I think he seems a guy that players love to play for. I think this is great by Costa Rica to go out of the Costa Rican Federation and find someone that has a pedigree of coaching bigger names and can pull something out of these players. For me, I'll watch him 100%. I will watch him to see what it looks like.
Yeah, I think now his nickname's El Piojo for those that don't know, but when I see Piojo manage, it does feel like he leads with emotion. And sometimes you have teams that need that, right? They need that emotional burst or spark or whatever it is to kind of hit that next level. But then there are other teams that don't need that emotion, right? They need more of that pragmatism and just need to be put in good spots to make plays, because the leaders on the field are going to be the ones that manage the emotion of the squad. And so I wonder how that's going to fit with this current generation of Ticos, of the Costa Rican players. I mean, we can look at them and say, hey, they've got quality. They always have quality. They're always tough to play against and to break down. What can he add to this setup with Costa Rica to take them to that next level, to make sure that they're going to qualify for the World Cup? They should, given that it's up to 48 teams, the expanded World Cup in 2026. However, you still have to go out there and get results. So I'm excited. I thought that he did get the most out of those Mexican teams. Winning a Gold Cup's never easy, as we've learned, as Mexico's learned countless times. And I thought that they were unlucky in the 2014 World Cup to not get into the quarterfinal. And so, yeah, I do think he brings some elements.
He's got to bring new players, Jimmy.
I mean, that's team, part of it too, right?
Yeah, their cycle has gotten old, and they haven't used a lot of their young national. There's been an argument from Costa Rican fans for a couple of years that they haven't dipped in nearly enough. I mean, we're still seeing Francisco Calvo play in the national team.
I know.
I mean,
and he's captain.
Yeah, and I get he's got a fighting spirit and he wears the badge, proudly, and it doesn't seem to work out with guys like him. So they've got to make some changes, and maybe he's the only guy with guts to make the changes, right? Because sometimes when you hire from within, you don't make some changes. You got loyalties to whoever. You feel that these guys, the more experienced guys, are going to get you over, and you're scared to bring young guys in because you don't know how they're going to react. You don't know if they're going to get the job done. So you tend to lean towards experienced guys, and it just hasn't worked for Costa Rica. I mean, they have a massive chance with what do we have? 6 teams, right? The 3 that have qualified, obviously, Canada, US, and Mexico, and then 3 other teams. It's a massive chance for them. We think Panama is going to compete. We think Jamaica is going to compete. Who's the other team? Like this is an opportunity. Is it Trinidad? Is it Costa Rica?
It's Honduras, Guatemala. Like you have a couple of those next.
You have a chance.
Right. That are in with a chance for sure. I do think they'll end up making it, but I don't think it's going to be easy. It never is in CONCACAF. Never straightforward. What's interesting though, now that we have Herrera in part of the mix now with CONCACAF, has there been a better time in terms of like coaches and names and experience than right now in CONCACAF? Because you have Pochettino with the U.S., you have Aguirre for Mexico, you got Jesse Marsch with Canada, you got Steve McLaren with Jamaica, Tomas Christensen with Panama, who's been great, Rueda, you have Herrera now. Like this is a good time for coaches in CONCACAF. I'm excited about what that means and what kind of, I don't say legacy seems pretty dramatic, but what kind of things they can leave in place for whoever takes over next,
Yeah, no, there's great names in CONCACAF now, and it makes it a heck of a lot more fun. It makes it better. It makes it more competitive. Of course, from our standpoint, being in this business, it gives you more storylines to look out and to look out for. So, yeah, like I said, with Piojo, I will watch to see what it looks like.
Yeah, and then you have Dwight York with Trinidad. I forgot about Dwight York. So, yeah, lots of teams, lots of opportunities to see who's going to squeak in and be those top 3 teams that get into the 2026 World Cup to join Mexico, the U.S., and Canada. All right, because he's back, we're going to leave the last part of the show for our very own Chuck Wagon Davies. Chuck, if he's not glitching out, we want to do Trigger Who You Want. So we're going to get some comments for you to answer. And if you don't want to answer them because you're glitching out, then we know that you're fake glitching because you need to be on the hot seat, my friends. Can we trigger Chuck? CS Ashbrook says Chuck needs to make a call and get his satellite moved. I think Chuck is still glitchy, Tones. He's
glitching
like
or muted, one or the other.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe both at the same time. Oh man, I think we're gonna have to trigger Chuck in the next show because it doesn't look very good. Well, you know what?
Chuck is still on vacation. He's still on vacation right now. He's
still on vacation. He is in vacation mode. Maybe there's a vacation tab that he's sitting with his computer.
Yeah. He's not
All
working.
right.
He's dancing. This is vacation.
Guys, give
for
us these
Chuck.
questions. Me and Tones will pretend that we're Chuck, and we're going to try to answer these questions, and then we'll send everybody on their way, and obviously wish for everybody to have a
answering
great
for
weekend.
Chuck?
We'll see you on the
Is
other
that
side.
what we're
We're
doing?
going to answer for Chuck. We're going to answer for
Oh,
Chuck.
boy.
Let's see. Can you channel your inner Chuck? Because for me, that's just immediately getting upset and defensive. What? They're saying, listen, I got to address one comment in the chat. This guy's driving me absolutely crazy. I don't want to say his name, but I'm going to say his name anyway. That's me.
And he's not going to trigger me. I'm not going to get triggered.
I'm not
There's
triggered.
no way
Even though
he's triggered.
my voice is up to 100. I'm not triggered.
I'm glitching out.
Glitching out. Zaroti says, where does the term
Oh,
camp
man.
cupcake originate? Big Tones, you actually know this. Where the term camp cupcake
Yeah, and
originated.
I've never used the term ever. I
No,
don't like the term. It originated as Chuck is glitching even more at the moment. It was on the radio. I'm going to give you. It was on the radio station I work at. Someone, I won't give you the name. You guys can look it up. But yeah, I think it's disrespectful, the name, to be honest. That's why I've never used it on air ever.
I appreciate that about you. Okay, that's a good question. Any other questions you got for us, Producer Des? Otherwise, we're going to send everybody on their way.
Ooh,
actually,
were we supposed to answer that as Chuck? Were we supposed to answer that?
No.
as Chuck or
That was a straight one.
Oh.
That was a straight one. Here's a good question. How many Canadian national team players would start for the U.S. men's national team? And I wish Chuck was answering this because I want to get it to say Jonathan David. I want to see if he say Jonathan David.
I'm going to look this up.
Chuck's giving us the old Dikembe Mutombo finger wag right now. Alphonso Davies for sure. Would Bombito?
Where would Alfonso start? Just curious. What position?
I would put him. Listen. Could you add Jedi on? You just put him up top. Put Alphonso Davies up top, and put Jedi on the outside of him. We're winning every single battle and creating as many numerical advantages out wide that we could. That's actually a really good. Would you go with Jedi Robinson or Alphonso Davies in this particular? I mean, Alphonso Davies gives you more attacking wise. And Chuck will reference that goal against Real Madrid in the semifinal for Bayern Munich. Tasty goal with his weak foot, his opposite foot.
How about Bombito? Bombito, I like him, man.
I do. I still think he's a little raw, but man, he's only going to get better. He's going to be really good.
Dude, that guy's one that can make a mistake and really use his speed to cover up. I mean, he's lightning fast, that kid.
Yeah.
And he's starting to read the game really well.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're going to play the way that we're playing now with what we think is three backs, Jimmy, Moise Bombito, for me, starts in our team.
Yeah, if we're playing three center backs. Wait, Chuck's here. Chuck.
I'm here.
What? Jonathan David, does he start for the U.S. or no?
Yes, he does.
Ooh, that was a bit of a surprise. Welcome back, Chuck.
Let's be real.
Okay, well, I didn't know for sure. I mean,
But people are getting it twisted. I just said he's not world class. That's it. The guy's balling. He's scoring. He's in form. He makes good runs. I don't think he's used the right way with Canada. With him and Kyle Larin, he plays deeper. I think he needs to be higher because he doesn't have, that crazy pace, but he's so good at his movement in and around the box, and he can create space for other players like Christian. And so he would be starting in our team.
All right. You heard it from Chuck. You heard it from Tones. Heard it from myself. Thank you guys for hanging out with us today. As a reminder, we're entering the final few days of voting for the Sports Podcast Award. So please help us out by voting for Call It What You Want in the Best Team Podcast category. It only takes a few seconds. And let's show them what this community is all about. We would love that. We appreciate you guys. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on the other side of it. And Chuck and Tones, great to see you guys as always. Producer Des and I appreciate you guys as well. Have a great weekend. We'll see you soon.
I love the comments. Keep them coming.
Keep those comments coming.
My computer's
Trigger
done.
who you want.